Good morning. Happy Monday morning. Welcome to the second episode of Monday Mornings with Margie. Today, our focus is going to be on acts of kindness during difficult times. And today, I have a guest here, Kerry LaBounty, who happens to be my partner, but also is a life coach. And I wanted to bring her in to talk with us all about how acts of kindness can be helpful to people during this time, especially with the pandemic going on. It can be great other times as well, but right now it seems like we all need this. So thank you for joining us.
Sure.
So I think that where I wanted to start is that one of the things I admire the most about you is you've always been someone who has been kind and done kind acts for people. For instance, I have a lot of good intentions. I may want to do good things, but the follow through is not always there. But you're really good about thinking about other people, thinking about kind acts, and actually then following through prior to the pandemic. But even more so during the pandemic. So I was just wondering, like, where do you think that comes from, and what about it has made you continue to do it throughout your life?
I think it comes from having experiences in my own life where people were kind to me at times that were hard. Mm-hmm. My parents died when I was a teenager. And there were people scattered throughout my life who did various acts of kindness, large and small. Mm-hmm. And I have always been appreciative of that. I've always been grateful for that. And it made me think about when I am in a position to do that, whatever that is, mm-hmm. then I want to be one of those people. Because I know how much it meant to me. Mm-hmm. And the follow-through piece is the hard part. Because we all have these wonderful thoughts. Right. And especially if you are feeling anxious or depressed or otherwise sort of involved in your head, it can be really hard to do the follow-through piece. Mm-hmm. So the things that I do is when I'm in a semi-good space, I put the pieces together so that when I'm ready to do something, it's there. Like mm-hmm. I have little note cards and stamps. Mm-hmm. So they don't just get written and not mailed. Mm-hmm. I can mail them. Right. Or I have little gift cards mm-hmm. that I don't have to, they may be $5 or whatever, but I don't have to think about them because I bought them ahead of time. Sure. So that when I'm ready to do something, they're there, mm-hmm. which makes that follow through a lot easier.
Right. I've seen it up close and personal. So in thinking about what's going on right now and the pandemic and people having really hard time and there being loss of life and loss of sort of freedoms that most of us are used to having, what do you think kindness, acts of kindness, big and small, what role do you think it plays right now with everything we're all going through?
I think it plays a grounding role. I think it's like, where, Mr. Rogers said, his mother always told him, look for the helpers. Mm-hmm. Well, those helpers they're doing big acts of kindness right now, but the other people making signs or clapping or saying thank you to the grocery store worker. All those little things do a couple of things. One, they help the person being thanked mm-hmm. by addressing the fact that they are doing something of value. Mm-hmm. But it also helps the thanker or the doer because we feel helpless mm-hmm. in a lot of ways in this. I can't cure this virus. I can't stop it. I can't even know for sure I can protect my family, mm-hmm. right? But what I can do, and so my locus of control, the place that I know I can do something, are little things. Mm-hmm. And by doing those things, it helps my own anxiety. It helps me feel like the little step of things I can do makes a difference for my brain. I think it reduces that sense of helplessness, and then that also helps overall.
I think one of the things I've noticed for both of us in this time also has been just observing kind acts, not necessarily being the giver or the receiver of the kind act, but observing the kindness happening, you know, whether we're watching it on TV or we see it ourselves out in the world. And so one of the things that sort of has occurred to me is there's like 3 ways in this whole kindness, you know, action. It's both being the giver, it's also being the receiver, and it's also being the observer. Sometimes you don't actually have to be the person in that interaction to actually have a positive or feel good response to it as well. And I think sometimes when we're watching the news or we're reading the newspaper or on social media, what can be focused on is what's not going well. And so I think sometimes we have to make sure we're looking for the good things that are happening and the kind acts that are happening in the midst of all of the hard things that are happening at the same time.
And I believe you get more of what you focus on. So I believe that if you focus on the negative things, that's what your brain is going to start to look at, because that's what our brain does. If you start looking at those positive things, you turn off the news, you know, you look at the positive stuff that's happening, your brain starts picking out other positive things. Oh, you like positive things? I'll show you some more positive things. Right. Because that's just the way the brain works.
Sure.
So it's a good trick. It's actually something I do. I sometimes play a little game with myself about thinking. It's called the what if game, and you can play what if both ways. You can say, what if I get home and something yucky's happened?
Sure.
Or what if I get home and something great's happened? And what do I see that's making me feel a little bit better? And it doesn't have to be big better.
Sure.
It can be, oh my gosh, I love the color of that flower.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, that person saved a life. It really can be small, and your brain will grab onto it. And that's just part of the biology of us.
Sure.
And then the emotional piece, we can attach good meaning onto it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both experienced that in our own personal lives. And I think we both practice that as much as we can, because it's not always natural way of our brains working. I guess my final question is, you know, sometimes when you're in the midst of this and someone's talking about kind actions, you may feel like it has to be monetary. You may feel like it has to be something, you know, big or earth-shattering. So I guess, you know, you always come up with these great little ideas of things that you do that always kind of amaze me when you kind of pull them out. But what are, I guess, some examples of things either you've done in your life, you've seen people doing, or suggestions you might have for people who want to do something kind? You know, maybe they, you know, are struggling themselves, whether it's emotionally or financially. What are some suggestions you might have that they could do during this time that may, you know, make them feel good in being able to give to somebody else and do something kind for somebody else?
Well, I think that a handwritten note is amazing for people, because how often do we get something that's handwritten that comes in the mail? Like, it's like this wonderful little treat. And that's for the price of a stamp and a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a note card. It doesn't have to be fancy. I also think you can do something like jot down a poem or a quote that has value and meaning to you and share it out. I think that has importance for people, because we connect with writing, we connect with poetry.
Sure.
So I think those are easy things. If you have, as spring is coming, if you have some flowers in your yard, cutting a flower or two, putting it on the neighbor's doorstep, it doesn't have to be things that cost a lot, but it has to be something that you feel like this would be nice to give or nice to receive.
Sure.
And it's, there's lots of other things. I mean, people are doing various pickup for people. There's other little things that you could do for people, but
sure.
I think those little touches that say, I see you, is really important.
One thing you did when this all started also was go to a couple of our neighbors who are elderly and made sure they had our phone number to, let them know if there's an emergency or you need something, don't hesitate to call, because they may not want to come to our house and knock on our door, in the time of social distancing, or they may feel like they might be a burden to us. But I think by you initiating that step and going over there, it sort of opened that door in a way that maybe it would have or maybe would not have been before. So, and that didn't cost a dime and didn't do anything, but I can say from the response of our neighbors, they were super appreciative, and you could tell that it meant something to them that you took the time to go over there. So, so I appreciate you sharing your words of wisdom with all of us. And, I think that it's important during this process that we all look at ways that we can give and receive and observe kind acts. And I think, one other thing to think about is that when somebody does something kind for you, being able to accept it and know that you don't have to do something back. Like you can accept the kind act without having to give back. I think sometimes people feel guilty or feel obligated to then do something in return. And, it's okay to accept something nice somebody else has done for you during this time. So I hope during this week that you all can embrace some kind of kind act, either by giving or receiving or observing, because all that will make this time a little bit easier for all of us the more we participate in acts of kindness. So I hope you have a good week, and I will see you next Monday morning. Take care and be well.